these two aspects of the self, and a lot of people aren't really like aware of one or the other of these aspects. A lot of people are very conscious of one of them and not very conscious of the other. And that is the spacious quality and the container quality of a person. So the spaciousness is more often associated with women, let's say. Very free and open and in touch with emotions. And then the container is more often associated with men, which is more logical and rational and stable, you could say. Like stability, comfort, maybe. And when you have let's say, because I'm going to focus on somebody who wants to attain power. So that's usually going to be somebody who's more of a container kind of person, consciously a container kind of person. And they feel as though they don't have as much, at least conscious, access to the spaciousness. So the spaciousness is what holds the power, because power in its structure and essence is uncontainable. It's very expansive, it's free, it doesn't have definition, it's large and, not able to be grasped, because as soon as you put power, which is a spacious quality, inside of a container, then really it cancels out what makes it power, what makes it powerful. Once power is inside of a locked container, it's a prisoner, and prisoners are not powerful. They are trapped. Would you call a prisoner powerful and free? So that's the elusive nature of power, is as soon as you try to grasp it, or as soon as you feel like you have it, that's when it's no longer power, and it actually loses its qualities of powerfulness as soon as you try to put it in the container. So what's interesting, and that you see in the world a lot, is that, we'll say not always, but a lot of times it's men who are trying to grab power because they are more of a container type of person, and they're trying to take power. And that's the thing, is you can't take power, because then it becomes a prisoner and it's no longer power. So they become insatiable, sort of trying to take power. I need power, and they do more and more and more, and it's never enough, because as soon as you have it in your grasp, it dissolves, and that's the nature of power. So the thing is, there's a spectrum of power. So here's the line called power. On this side of the spectrum of powerfulness, there is destruction, control. That is what we might call powerful. We might consider these things powerful, or they might more be ways in which we try to present power, in which we try to have power. Okay, so destruction and control. That's the thing that's going to not, only destroy and control all around you and yourself, but it's going to also destroy and control the power, making it no longer power. So it sort of falls off the end of the spectrum, even though in the mind of the logical container type of person, it feels like that's the only tools that they have to gain it. But if we go on the opposite end of the same spectrum of power, there's protection. That's also extremely powerful. Protection, because the thing is, the amount of power that's ever existed in the entire universe is the same as it's always ever been. And it will never get bigger or smaller. Power is already here existing. It's not something that needs to be gained. It's already fully determined in the space around us. There is power everywhere. I'm not talking like metaphysically, although you can take it that way, but it's true. But my point is, logically, there's power in everything. There's power in the community that already exists around you. There is power in the land that already exists around you. Just, again, not just metaphysically, but economically. Like, the land being intact and beautiful makes the place that the land is on more of a powerful kind of place, because then people want to live in a beautiful place. People are willing to spend more money to live and be around a beautiful thing, because you feel it. You feel the power in beauty, the power in freedom and openness and incredible landscapes. So, and yeah, so then the community itself holds power because they're happy, they're thriving, it's just like the things already around you are the things that hold the power. So you can go on this end of the power spectrum, which is control and destruction. A lot of the destruction is quite like subconscious, so I'm using this like community and this land thing as an example, but this could be for so many things. So it's like, I want to control the community, I want to control the land, I want to control the money, and so I'm going to expand. I'm going to cut down all the trees to make a bigger community, to put up more high density homes, expand the roads, and then we'll get more power. We'll have more money. And what's interesting about that is the counterintuitive nature of it, that now that they've tried to grab the power and put it in a container and expand it, because power can't be expanded, it's already fully expansive, that is the downfall of the power. That is what dissolves the power. The community gets disheveled, the community gets depressed, and because you're taking the power from them, they get bigger, they expand, but they're weaker, and their economic power is weaker because now their area is ugly, and the only people moving there are, people who have to move there because their company paid for them to move there, and they put them in the high density home they paid for that home, and then, it's like people that are passing through. This is not a real part of the community. It's a burden on the community. Or it is real, great people moving there, but again, these people are adding a lot of burden onto the pre-existing community, because the structure of the environment can't hold this many people, and so then you have to expand the roads, and then you have to bulldoze more trees, and then you have to make the land uglier, and then it creates more traffic, and it creates more misery, and creates higher prices, and now the people who are already living there can't afford to live there anymore, and etc. It's like, when you're fattening up a hog, it's like you're feeding him, and oh yeah, he is getting bigger. He is getting bigger. The community is getting bigger and more and more and more. But then the hog can't stand anymore because it's so fat, and it has all these health problems because it's so fat and it's miserable and it's eating. Oh, I want to eat more and more and more. I think I'm getting more powerful by eating more, but really it's getting weaker. The bigger it gets and the more that it attains, it's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And then what happens? It gets slaughtered and eaten. So while we think we are gaining power from expanding, getting more and more and more, oftentimes it's making us weaker, because the more and more and more we have, the more and more and more burden we have, and the more misery we have as well. Whatever you get more of, you also get more of the opposite end of the same spectrum. So again, let's go on the other side of power, which is protection. Protection is extremely powerful. In the end, more powerful than control, because protection keeps the power balance fully intact. So the power that is already there, being embodied through the community, through the land around you, through the farming practices, through a balanced environment, that's a powerful place. That's power, balance, protection. You're keeping these things intact, safe. You're keeping the spaciousness spacious. And power needs spaciousness to thrive. Power and freedom are one and the same. You cannot contain the power, or else it's no longer power. So, this little squirrel outside my window. So, as soon as you try to contain the power, it's no longer power. Yes, protection. Sorry, the squirrel distracted me. So, if you really want to feel power, like real power inside of you, and see it trickle out around you, that's embodying protection. And that is the most power that you can get. It's like, as another example, and this is just, it might be like sort of a triggering example. I don't know. But it's like, if a man, I'm just using what's typically, a common thing. Not all men or whatever. It's like, if a man is abusing a woman, because it's like, a man is typically the container and the woman is typically the spaciousness. He might be hurting the woman because he is trying to control the spaciousness. He feels like the power of the spaciousness, and he wants power, and he feels like he doesn't have power. And so he's trying to take it from her. But it never really works, does it? He just keeps having to abuse her and feel like he's getting power from this. But he never actually ends up being any more powerful. Like, he just keeps up the cycle, and he continues to feel powerless because his container has a lid on it. He doesn't know how to get the power into his container, how to get the spaciousness inside of a container. Seems, counterintuitive. But if that same man ended up thinking, wait, okay, let me go to the opposite end of this spectrum of power. Instead of control and destruction, let's go to protection, Like, that's also another extremely potent purpose of a container. A container can be a controlling mechanism, or a container can be a protective mechanism. So when you're using the container aspect of yourself, which men have very consciously present, oftentimes, not always, and women have more subconsciously present, oftentimes, not always. When you're using the container aspect of yourself in its most potent form that is actually the protection of the spacious aspect of yourself, the actual powerful and free aspect of yourself. And the thing is, spaciousness, freedom, power, without a container also has a lot of downsides. It's directionless, it's chaotic. It might be power, but it has nowhere to utilize itself or to know itself. And so with the counterpart of a container, these two forces together can actually be extremely beautiful and purposeful. So the container with an open lid protects the power and the freedom in all actuality. Because when the freedom and the spaciousness and the power feel safe to interact with the container, because it knows that the lid is open, it can move, it can still be itself, it can still be spacious and grand and leave the container and be outside and inside the container at the same time. So when it knows that that is allowed, it is more willing to go into the container. And when it goes into the container on its own volition, a part of it goes into the container, a piece of itself goes into the container. Then it can know itself. You can think of the container as sort of like a house of mirrors, has all these walls around it, but all the walls are reflective. And so the power and the spaciousness and the freedom can go inside of this container when it so pleases, when the container itself allows it to, when the container itself wants it to. And then the power and the freedom can bounce around in there, seeing all of the sides of itself, seeing, oh, I can have a shape and I can still be free. I can still be freedom and power because I can still move out of this container. I still have my limitlessness and I have a shape now. And I can utilize my own self, my spaciousness, my freedom, my power in a direction, in a purposeful manner, right? So the container allows the spaciousness, the freedom, and the power to understand and see itself and utilize itself properly. And the container is protecting the real freedom aspect of the power. The container protects it, keeps it safe, shows it itself. And then, therefore, the container and the power end up being the same thing. So the power is the movement, like the creation aspect and the ideas and the promptings, right? And then the container is like the physical, the doing. I will carry out the powers. Like the powers like the backbone, and then the container, is the body. The power is the mind, the container is the body. And the container is like the front man, right? Like I'm the one that can carry out the power's purpose. I'm the one that can carry out the spaciousness and the power's ideas. And then the spaciousness and the power is the one who comes up with the ideas, so it's like they end up working as a team. So the thing is, this isn't just men and women. You need to find your perfect male container in order to let your spaciousness thrive. It's also within each of us. Each of us has a container and each of us has spaciousness. That's also why, a lot of times it's like the men who might be more of a container type try to take power from women or try to take power and spaciousness and freedom from the world. It's because they do know that exists. They know what it feels like. There is something inside of them that's just locked away in their container that is already power and spaciousness and freedom. And they're just not as consciously aware of it or have as much conscious access to it. But if they sort of loosened the lid of their container every once in a while, not tried to control it, but rather tried to protect it tried to keep that aspect of themselves safe, which means to keep it free, which means to keep it open, which means to let it out every once in a while. Or not every once in a while, but let it out all of the time, like let the lid off of your container all of the time. In order for it to, it's not going to leave you. Like, that's the fear, right, of somebody who's more of a container type. The fear is that it will leave you. But, you know, if you have a container with an open lid, air doesn't ever leave the container, then the container would like suddenly collapse in on itself or something. There's always air inside of the container and outside the container, right? So it's the same for freedom and power. It can't actually leave a container because it's formless. It's everywhere all of the time. All right. The only thing not allowing you to see that is because of the lid on your container. You think that you can trap power, but you can't. That's what makes it powerless. So keeping the lid open on your container is what actually, at the end of the day, ends up giving you the power. And that can, you know, practically, like, what does that look like? The thing is, what's interesting is, like, in my own experience, I'm more of a spacious kind of person, and I personally have had trouble having a container for myself. So it's like I'm sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum. So here's, you know, my experience with it, and take what you will with for that. And I think that I could play off of my experience, see the other end. But, you know, for most of my life, up until really recently, I projected my desire for a container onto men. Like I wanted, you know, there's like this subconscious aspect of myself that wanted to be contained because I wanted to know myself. I felt directionless. I felt purposeless because I felt very, very free, but with nowhere to drive that freedom. You know, I have all this freedom, but I don't really know what to do with it. And so yeah, I would project that onto a man because I see that they have like a really conscious container aspect of themselves, and I would want that. And so really I just see them as a container rather than as a full human being who also has an aspect of spaciousness and freedom and power to them. So really for me to start to embody like the containerness of myself, I started, which actually ends up giving me more true power, because that's another thing is I'm scared of having a container within myself because I'm scared of trapping my power, and then I feel like my power will go away because it doesn't have as much room anymore to breathe. But I started to realize I was just scared of having the walls around it, but I don't need to put that lid on it. Like I can have the walls, the container around my spaciousness, and it's still just as free. It can come and go as it pleases, but it's just even more powerful because now it knows itself, and now it can be in there and have a shape and see its edges and see its purpose and see its direction. So it ended up giving me more power, more purpose, and also less reliance on an outside force to be my container. Now if I meet a lovely man, I can see him as a whole individual instead of just a container to keep me safe and structured. So for the opposite kind of person that is more of a container type, you know, instead of seeing, so I'm just again going to use this example. It's not all men, it's not all women, you know, you get it. Take it with a grain of salt, my language, my wording. But if you're a man that's a more of a container type and you're maybe doing the same thing I did, projecting onto a woman, oh, she's so spacious, that's real power or something. It might not be conscious that you're thinking this, but it's like a subconscious thing. That's like, I want that quality. I don't feel like I have it as much, so I would like to get it in somebody else. And so instead of participating as much in that pattern, which actually ends up leaving you feeling typically more confused afterwards and less spacious, because you're reliant on an outside force to give you that spaciousness, you can start to just work on different aspects of yourself that perhaps, let's say, you see in women who are very spacious. So for me, I was working on aspects of myself that I might see in a man. I might try to get that in a man. So I'm trying to get protection. I'm trying to get structure. I'm trying to get like leading qualities. And so I'm more like working on my own, like protecting myself, giving myself structure, giving myself leading qualities, leading myself, and that's what gives me more of the container aspect of myself. And then for a man, let's say what he is seeing and desiring in a woman is things that he thinks that he lacks in himself. So he might see, okay, she has like more emotional regulation qualities. She's hey, sorry, I got cut off. My dad came up to my window. So the last thing I was saying though, okay, like what would a man be looking for? We're going, example, a straight man that likes women, who is a more container type of man. Fit it to your own, fit it to your own personal experience. But what a straight man who's a container might be looking for in a woman. So he might be looking, for more like emotional expansiveness, more of like a nurturing, kind, caring quality, spontaneity, and like this free kind of flowy quality. Things that he might feel as though he's lacking. So, fit it to your own experience, but whatever you feel like you're lacking and are looking for in somebody else, start to look inside of yourself instead and think, where can I give myself these qualities and aspects and opportunities to experience these things? I'm not saying you need to become a woman, because this is also like what I was like frustrated about at first too. I was like, well, I don't want to be a protector. I don't want to be the leader. I don't want to be the provider. Like, I'm a woman. I want to be like my sort of, I'm this type of woman. Like, I want to be this type of woman that is the nurturer and the, like the carer and like the emotional aspect and the free, whatever. Like, I want to do that, and I don't want to have the more masculine, traditionally masculine qualities. It's not what I want, but it's not that I need to become more like a man, but rather like having this inner quality of these like traditionally masculine qualities within me allows my true like feminine qualities to actually come out more, because now they feel safe to do so. Before, I was relying on a man to feel safe enough and protected enough to actually allow my true feminine qualities to come forth in that container. But now I have more of this safe and protective quality container inside of myself, and the spaciousness feels more safe to relax itself and actually be known and be seen and be true and be expansive and be big, and it's quite interesting. It's like at first I felt like to fit the mold of what I thought, a woman needed to be, it's like I had to push it because it's like I never felt safe enough to fully relax into my true like potential of like my feminine aspect. And yeah, I thought that I had to like put on this like I'm a weak woman who like can't, you know, and I need a man to keep me safe, you know. But it's like women, full grown women that aren't weak also need protection and safety, you know. Not, I'm not saying just in terms of like physical protection and safety, emotional protection and safety, feeling safe and protected at home, you know. You know, when traveling, when, you know, just like in situations that is sometimes difficult to feel that inner stability and containment of knowing that you are protected and cared for and provided for. And so having this, like, it's almost, you could call it like an inner man, embracing these qualities, allowing him to be alive within me, allows my true femininity and spaciousness and freedom to blossom and feel safe and protected and seen and allowed. Yeah, so a man, it's for a man, it's like, you know, you don't have to become a woman, do all the women things externally. It's like I also don't need to like become like super buff and strong and like whatever. Like I don't need to like externally exude these factors, but it's just like knowing that I have an inner man, you know, container that's always like, you're safe, you're protected, you're provided for, like I'm here, you know, I'm gonna do that for you. You can have this like inner woman basically to be like I'm also gonna take care of you, I'm gonna nurture you, like whenever you have emotional needs that feel unmet or you feel like, you know, blocked up emotionally, like I'll be here to listen to you. You know, it's not that you have to be like crying all the time to everybody now because you're embracing your woman side. It's like, no, the woman side is your own internal self and can listen to you and can provide you emotional support and can help you to like break out of, you know, your rigidness a little bit. Like allow her to be free, allow her to be her own freedom, you know. Allow her to be herself, you know. Like what do you think like women are like? They're like open and free and they're, you know, they want to have space and like that's what they naturally are. And so allow her to be herself. Don't keep her locked in the container of your inner self, you know. Allow her to be free and spacious. And then, you know, just be playful with her, like allow her room and watch her and be in awe of her. And don't be scared that she's going to leave you, because she's not, because she's just a part of you. You know, you can't leave yourself. She's always going to be there. You feel like she's not there right now because you're keeping her trapped inside of a little container. So she's not actually really herself. But take the lid off and talk to her. You know, literally like imagine her like as if it's a fantasy, like an imagination. Imagine her in your mind, this like inner woman who is really free, and instead of controlling her and keeping her locked inside of the container of your mind or your body, choose the opposite end of that spectrum of power and protect her. Just say, I'm going to keep you safe. You know, I'm going to allow you to be yourself. I'm going to allow you to be open and free and feminine and emotional and spacious and floaty and whatever. I'm going to allow you to do that because I'm going to keep you safe. And I know that the more that I allow you to be in your freedom and your power, the more I actually have that power within me, because you are an aspect of myself. And the only way to allow you to be free and powerful is to protect you, not control you, not keep you locked away, but allow you to be yourself and to know that you're safe being yourself, because then you can really be yourself, because I'm keeping you safe. You know, you're not going to be in pain. You're not going to be hurt if you're free. You're going to be okay, because I'm here to provide for you, to provide you that freedom. So, yeah. If you're more of a container person, embodying the spaciousness and the freedom will give you more power. If you're more of a spacious freedom kind of person, embodying the container will end up actually giving you more power. I hope that this helps. Thank you.